This is an introduction to Kolb's learning process. So we can learn, and we can go through life just having a series of experiences, one after the other. Oh, boom, boom, boom. Lots of different experiences, not taking anything from it, just, oh yeah, that was good, that was bad, that was fun, whatever. We could go through that, but we're not like that. Our conscious and our subconscious take on information based on our experiences as we go through life through these experiences. Subconsciously, we're learning all sorts of stuff, though we might not be thinking about when I might not be planning to. So such things like don't touch the fire, or snow is cold, I don't like swimming in water. Those kind of things, they're fairly subconscious and we go through those. But we can massively boost the learning experience and our development if we go through a simple process, and that's where we're going to refer to Kolb's learning process. So we have different amounts of conscious and subconscious learning as we progress through life. So as babies, mostly it's subconscious learning. We don't set out to do things, and our reactions are subconscious. So we're hungry, we cry. We don't make a decision consciously to cry to let people know that we need fed. It's a subconscious thing that we do. As we progress, as we get older, then we start consciously learning things. If I do this, this happens, and subconsciously learning as well, but they kind of take over a little bit. So we get to where you are in life, perhaps, where we've got quite a lot of both of those. We might be making conscious decisions. If I dress this way, will people like me? It's not necessarily a good thing to be going out, but it's if I do this, will this happen? You're consciously testing theories, and that's part of conscious learning. So we go through life using this all the time, and Kolb is about becoming aware of that so that we can boost our conscious learning to the maximum, and we can get as much as we possibly can out of life's events. The first element of Kolb's learning process is plan. This involves conscious decision making, not subconscious or unconscious decision making, or just going straight at something, but a conscious decision about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. This makes us aware of the elements of the upcoming activity because we're looking ahead. We're looking at what might happen, why it might happen, how can we prevent things from happening, some contingency planning maybe, what happens if this happens, and we are looking ahead. So we're making that plan. We're also able to look forward and go, well, what can I get from this experience? What can I learn from this experience as well? What theories can I try out in this opportunity? So in the photograph here, you've got the people there. They've planned their raft, they built their raft, they're now planning to float it, and they've made that conscious decision. So they've thought about what things will make this a success, and what have I learned from it. What do I know? We're all looking towards one person there, so maybe I know that person is going to be the leader, the coordinator. So I know that our barrels are a little bit wobbly, so I know that we need to have a contingency plan for what if one of the barrels pops out. We're learning the things about the activity practically, but also learning about ourselves. So I am stood in the water now, and I realise that actually I'm more nervous than I thought I was going to be. And we're learning about people around us as well. So, you know, the young lady at the back there in the red helmet, she's looking across at someone that's on the beach. What has she learned? Well, she's learned that person is probably more nervous than they realised, and that's why they're stood on the beach, because they don't want to get into the water. So there's a whole load of information that they've actually gathered that they know. They might not have realised that unless they'd stopped and thought about it. So it's a conscious decision about what we're going to do, how and why, and how can we deal with things that might go wrong. So we have that plan, and it's not just, as I said before, it's not just for the activity and things around it, but also planning for our learning as well. So I'm going to maybe try this out on this exercise or this activity. Then we move on to the second part. Next element, do. Whoopsie. So this is the active element. So we're putting the plan into action. We're going to test the plan against real life or the real world, and we're also testing our contingency. So what did we do when that barrel popped out, or all the barrels popped out? You know, what did happen? Did that contingency plan work or not? We're just remaining aware of that. We're not doing anything with that knowledge. We're just remaining aware of it. and maybe what happened and why. And we're also able to assess the success of the activity. So for some of these people, their success is, had a good time with my mates. Did I? Yes, I did. We fell in the water and the raft didn't get around, but yeah, that's absolutely fine. But we had a good laugh. Some people, the assessment of success might be complete no's all across the board. I only wanted to get around on the raft and I didn't want to get wet, and neither of those happened. As a complete failure. Okay, but crucially, through our assessment, our testing, we're able to look at maybe what are the contributors to that success or that failure. So that was the second one. Third one, I mean, this is in two parts, 2 slides here, is review. So the third element is review. So it's a conscious analysis of what happened and why, what worked and why, and what didn't work and why. And there's no balance on either of those. We need to know both of those, what did work, what didn't work. And we don't want to shy away from either of them. And it's a real temptation to shy away from what didn't work. We don't want to look at that. Oh, I don't want to shy away from that. It's really important to work out what didn't work so we can not do it next time and be more successful in the future. And if we can learn from both of those, then we can learn all sorts of things for use in the future. Things like practical things, maybe specific to raft building, theoretical things, maybe things specific to tying knots or the way teams work and things like that, activity specific, general stuff. Don't shout at people because they can't hear you when they're screaming. Public stuff, so stuff that's known to everybody. It might be private stuff. So actually, I'm more scared about getting in cold water than I realise. But I don't need to tell everybody else that. But I'm going to slot that away and remember that. Personal stuff, social stuff. Yeah, we really had a good laugh, even though we fell in the loch. It didn't matter. We can only use this stuff though if it is conscious. So we do need to go through the events of that activity and list all those things, what worked, what didn't, all of this stuff, all of these levels, all these aspects, loads and loads of information. So we can take loads of information from every activity that we do. So that's review, part 3. And so moving on to part 4 is apply. So we take all that conscious learning from our previous reviews, some of which we may have planned. I want to try this out, see if this works. And we're going to take that activity, take whatever happened and make the most value out of it. And we're going to look at each part of the experience as a growth experience that gets us ready for the next experience. And that's mindset. We may touch on mindset later on. Mindset is about taking every opportunity to learn from successes and failures, because they're not failures, they're apparent failures. Anyway, back into applying. We take all that stuff and we apply it, but we don't just apply it into next time we build a raft. The team here built a raft last time. Now they're out on a boat, rowing a boat. So what can they have learned from that? They learned some specific stuff. So it may be that they've learned from raft building that when everyone's screaming and shouting, there's no coordination. It's really difficult to coordinate. So they've then applied that to the next activity in their plan. You know what, guys? One of us is going to be the voice, they're going to coordinate, and everyone else is going to keep quiet. So they've taken it from one activity and put it into another. And it doesn't need to be activities, it can be all sorts of things. Maybe socially, they've discovered that actually, you know what, on the raft, 2 of us got into trouble on our barrel, but we really helped each other out, and that really worked really well. So when we're rowing the rowboat, I'm going to work opposite of them because we communicate and work really well together. So it could be a social thing. And we're talking about activities here, but you could learn something from the raft build. This is the way that the team worked really well, that you could then apply to doing a project at school. Okay, because they're principles that we're learning from those. So we need to analyze those and take everything we possibly can away from the activity. So the process itself, to keep it nice and simple and easy to remember, is we plan. We make a plan for what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, some contingencies, and also what do I want to get out of this personally? What do I want to learn from this? What do I want to try out? We then do the activity, and we list all the things that we've taken from that, all the occurrences, and we make ourselves conscious of that. We review that, so we look at the whys. Why did that thing happen? How did this activity or this event during the activity affect these events during the activity? Were they successful? Were they valid or not? What did I learn out of this? how could I use these things in the future? And then we apply it into our next plan. However, what we could do is apply it into the plan as well. So this process doesn't need to be start to finish. So start the raft building to the end of the raft building, and the next plan is a different activity. This can occur all the time. So as a good team member, what we're doing is we're remaining aware of Kolb's learning processes, both for ourselves to learn about ourselves, but also what can we be doing in this activity? What, whilst I'm doing this activity, have I discovered about doing it? So in that way, you get the person that their barrel starts popping out, they're starting to get a bit wet, they drop down Maslow, they start screaming and shouting, and then partway through they go, you know what, this isn't helping at all, I'm just going to cooperate with everybody else. They've been through the Kolb process within the activity. They've planned to do something, planned to not fall in, they have fallen in, they reviewed the situation of falling in and screaming, it's really not helping, I'm going to apply that knowledge, I better shut up. Back into the plan, right, okay, I'm in the water. The raft building plan is that we will all stick together and help each other. I'll work with this person next to me and maybe they'll help me onto their barrel. Okay, so it's a continual process. And to go on to the last slide then, to make it really complicated, we're not having those little learning experiences make our brain grow a little bit. We're actually having multiple learning experiences that we learn from and apply to every activity that we do. So we're going through mini Kolb processes continually, growing loads and loads more. If we're conscious, we actually put in that stuff into the review because we're conscious of what we do and we plan to do what we did. So what can we take away from this, guys? Well, when we're talking about plans are at all levels, not just for the activity, but the things around it and for learning. And they're really, really important because they enable us to really get value out of what we're doing. So we don't go through life just doing stuff and then moving on to the next one and maybe growing a little bit through the subconscious stuff that we learn. But actually what we're doing is we are doing an activity, we're planning it, we're taking part, we're doing it, we're reviewing it, and we're applying our knowledge continually through all our activities so that we can learn for the most that we possibly can. And you know what? We're doing the activities anyway, so it doesn't take a lot more time. It takes a little bit more thought, but with the same amount of time spent putting into these activities, we end up learning a whole lot more in the same amount of time with a tiny bit of extra effort. So it's well worth it. So that's Kolb's learning process, everyone. And that's what we'll be using and staying conscious of throughout the whole experience. Thanks very much. Good luck, everybody.